Here we got a call for a toilet that is running. You can see here that the water has dropped significantly, and you can see that they did already replace the flapper. What happens is the fill valve is what controls the level in which the water will fill. Once this senses that the water has dropped, it'll call for it to fill back up, and that's what's happening. You can see that they do have a new flapper, and if you look here, you can see that there is water still leaking. So at this point, we're going to replace the flush valve. This is the new flush valve that we're going to be installing. Some of the flush valves come without the flapper. This one comes with the flapper for a few cents more. So we're going to go ahead and start on replacing this flush valve. First thing you want to do is turn the water supply off to your toilet. Next, we're going to flush the toilet to just basically remove as much water as possible. Remove your supply line. Make sure you have a vacuum, a wet dry vac, or a rag available. On each side of the toilet, you're going to have basically a bolt and a nut. You're going to remove the nut on each side. You can see here we've removed the nuts. Now that we remove the nuts, we're going to basically pull up the tank, and there's going to be a little bit of water inside. What I like to do is I like to basically open the toilet and then pour the rest of the water inside. Once you've done that, now you're ready to start working on removing the flush valve. So here we have underneath the toilet tank, we have this little gasket. They have different gaskets. Some of them don't have this extended piece that goes around the bolts. This particular one does, but mostly what I experience on the economy side is just this portion of the gasket right here. So go ahead and remove that gasket. Once you remove the gasket, you'll go ahead and remove the bolts. Next, you're going to need a basically pair of channel locks, just basically a wide grip that will allow you to just clamp on the sides and then twist. If you are having difficulties with the channel locks, it's very common to use a hammer and a heavy set screwdriver, a flathead, and basically you're going to take the flathead, you're going to put it right on that plastic nut, and then you're going to tap it very gently, and that will just give it a nice crack. You can see here, I tap it very gently, and you can see that it cracked. Very easy. Once you remove the nut, go ahead and remove the flush valve. This is the old flush valve, and you can see here when I put a little bit of pressure, there is a fracture crack in the flush valve. On my left, you can see here is the new flush valve, and on my right is the old one. You can see that the new one is sitting taller, so we are going to have to make some modifications. We're going to have to cut the top at least about 1.5 inches just to get it so that it'll fit inside the tank. You can see here, these are the old bolts. We're going to put the new ones in since we already are replacing the flush valve and we have exposure. So before I put in the flush valve, I'm going to install these new bolts. Again, just don't over tighten them. Make sure they're nice and snug. Don't go too tight because you don't want to crack the tank itself. Now we're going to install our new flush valve. Here, same rule applies. Don't over tighten it. Make sure it's nice and snug with your channel locks. Just make sure that you don't over tighten it because you don't want to crack the flush valve. Now basically we're going to put the new gasket on. Basically it just sits right over the flush valve. This is the old one that we replaced. Go ahead and install your nut and washer on each side. What I like to do when I'm installing the nut and the washer is I'll do a little bit on this side, then I'll jump to this side, and each side I'll tighten basically intermittently until I get it nice and secure. Connect your supply line. Make sure you connect your hose and your flapper. Turn the supply line back on. Once it's filled, go ahead and check for leaks on the back, underneath, just to make sure that you've eliminated any exterior leaks. You can see inside the bowl that the water has stopped leaking, so we know that the issue has been resolved. Go ahead and flush your toilet one more time, and then check for any more leaks before you leave.